In Bishop, California, if you don't like fishing or farming, you're invisible. But Lara Leal refused to follow that path. She was the only girl gliding along rails in a cracked parking lot, using a skateboard older than her. They thought she was just another kid having fun in a dead-end town. Every fall meant torn skin. Every bruise meant someone else saying, "Give up." She didn't give up, because one day, she vowed, the world would hear her name announced on a stage built for champions and a crowd chanting her name. The only problem? The road from there to that stage was paved with pain, poverty, and people praying for her to fail. Some people are born into cities with skate parks, sponsors, and cameras waiting to capture their first trick. Lara Leal wasn't one of them. She grew up in Bishop, California, a place where dreams were as cracked as the parking lot she practiced on. Her skateboard wasn't new. It wasn't even hers to begin with, but it was the one thing she refused to let go of. This isn't just about skateboarding. It's about what happens when you have nothing but grit, scars, and a dream too big for the street you grew up on. Over the next few minutes, you're going to see how a girl with no coach, no money, and no connections went from being invisible to standing under spotlights in arenas she never thought she'd see. You'll feel the blood, the falls, the moments where walking away would have been easier, and why she didn't. And here's the thing. By the time this story ends, you'll understand that the size of your start doesn't matter. What matters is whether you're willing to ride through the breaks, the bruises, and the voices telling you you're done. Because if Lara's story teaches us anything, it's that the road to the top isn't always built for you. Sometimes, you have to grind your own rail. Before we begin, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city and country in the comments. I'd love to see how far this story travels. Hit that like button if you believe every underdog deserves their shot. And subscribe for more real, unfiltered stories of grit, redemption, and the moments that change everything. Bishop, California seemed frozen in time. Wide, dusty streets with faded storefronts that barely stayed open. The same old pickup trucks passing by every morning. The same church bell ringing on Sundays. The same faces at the diner talking about the same things. If you didn't fish, farm, or hunt, you were practically invisible. For Lara Leal, it wasn't just boring, it was suffocating. She could feel the weight of that small town pressing down on her, like it wanted to keep her in place forever. She was only 6 when her life took a turn. On her birthday, she received a skateboard, not from her parents, but from Mike, a friend of her father. It wasn't shiny or new. The wheels were worn flat, the grip tape was peeling, and the deck had a big chip on one side. It rattled so much when she rolled it that you could hear her coming from half a block away. To most people, it was junk. But to Lara, it was a key. A way out of Bishop, even if she didn't know exactly how. At first, she stayed close to home, rolling back and forth on the cracked sidewalk in front of the small rented house where she lived with her parents and younger brother. She fell often, scraping her knees and elbows. Her mom would sigh every time she saw the blood on her legs. "Lara, this isn't for girls," she'd say, shaking her head while cleaning the wounds. But Lara never argued. She'd just give a small smile, pick up the board, and push herself forward again. The sting in her knees was nothing compared to the feeling of freedom when she moved. A year later, when she was 7, something unexpected happened. A neighbor filmed her skating while wearing a fairy costume she'd found in a thrift store. It was Halloween, but Lara didn't care about candy. She just wanted to try skating with wings. The video went online, and to everyone's surprise, it went viral. People started calling her the skate fairy, but in Bishop, going viral didn't mean much. There were no skate parks, no trainers, no sponsors. Just one girl with a skateboard older than she was, practicing alone in a forgotten corner of town. She found her spot behind an old supermarket, a cracked parking lot with broken glass scattered across it, and a rusty handrail that became her training ground. Day after day, she tried to master her first grind. She stayed until the last light faded behind the mountains, her shadow stretching long across the asphalt. That's when the teasing began. School kids walking home would stop to watch her. "Here comes the junkyard fairy," one boy shouted. Others laughed, pointing at her board. The nickname stuck. But instead of hurting her, It lit something inside her. She didn't care if they laughed. Every fall taught her balance. Every bruise taught her control. And every insult reminded her she was chasing something they couldn't see. Her family didn't have money for lessons or gear. They were part of a government assistance program, barely covering rent and groceries. If Lara wanted to enter even a small competition, it meant selling things on the street. Homemade empanadas, secondhand clothes, anything to afford gas money for the trip. Sometimes her father would work extra shifts, coming home late with his hands so tired he could barely eat dinner. "You better make it worth it, kid," he'd say, with a tired grin. And she would nod, not realizing yet how much those sacrifices would weigh on her shoulders later. By the time she turned 9, Lara wasn't just that girl with the skateboard anymore. She was the girl who wouldn't quit. She'd land tricks on a rail that was barely holding together, spin on asphalt that chewed up her wheels, and get back up faster than anyone could count after a fall. But dreams have a way of attracting obstacles, and Lara's biggest one wasn't the cracked pavement or the empty bank account. It was a person, someone who, once they noticed her, would become the hardest thing she'd ever have to overcome. Lara thought the worst thing in Bishop was the lack of opportunities. She had no idea the real battle would be against someone determined to make sure she never left that town. By the time Lara was 10, the old supermarket parking lot had become more than a place to practice. It was her world. She knew every crack in the pavement, every loose rock, every spot where the sunlight hit just right before disappearing behind the mountains. The rusty handrail, bent in the middle from years of neglect, was her biggest challenge. Some days she would slide across it perfectly. Other days she'd slam to the ground so hard the breath would leave her body. Most people passed by without paying attention. A girl on a skateboard in Bishop was like a bird in the desert, out of place. But one afternoon, someone stopped. It was a man in his early 40s wearing a dusty baseball cap and mirrored sunglasses. He leaned against a pickup truck and watched in silence as Lara tried the same trick over and over. She didn't notice him at first, too focused on nailing the grind. But when she finally did, her stomach tightened. Bishop wasn't the kind of place where strangers just hung around. "You're gonna break your neck on that thing," the man said, finally walking closer. Lara stayed on her board, one foot pushing back and forth slowly. "I'm fine," he smirked. "No coach? No spotter? No one teaching you?" She shook her head. He glanced at her board and let out a short laugh. "That thing's older than you. Wheels are shot. Bearings sound like they're grinding gravel." She shrugged. "Still works." For a moment, the man said nothing. Then he introduced himself as Rick Dalton, claimed he used to skate back in the day. Said he'd even been to competitions in Los Angeles before life got in the way. Lara didn't know whether to believe him. His clothes didn't look like he belonged to the world of skating anymore. Oil-stained jeans, work boots, the smell of gasoline on his hands. Still, he started coming by more often. Sometimes he'd give her tips. "Bend your knees more on the landing. Look where you want to go, not at your feet." Other times he'd just watch. At first, Lara thought maybe he wanted to help her. No one else in Bishop cared enough to stop, but there was something about him she couldn't read. Something behind those mirrored sunglasses that made it hard to know what he was really thinking. One Saturday, after she finally landed a trick she'd been working on for weeks, Rick clapped slowly. "You know, you could go pro one day," he said. Her chest tightened. No one in Bishop had ever said those words to her before. "But," he added, his tone shifting, "you'll never make it with junk like that, and no one's going to take you seriously if you can't afford to show up at real competitions." It stung because it was true. That night she couldn't sleep. She kept hearing his voice in her head. "You'll never make it." From then on, his presence became a constant in her training. Some days he was encouraging, other days critical. Sometimes he'd tell her she was wasting her time. And yet, she kept skating. Maybe part of her wanted to prove him wrong. Months passed. Lara entered a small competition in a nearby town. She didn't win, but she placed third, a huge deal for someone with no coach, no sponsor, and a skateboard that looked like it had been through a war. When she returned to Bishop, Rick was waiting at the parking lot. "Third place, huh?" he said with a grin. "Not bad, but I told you, second place is just the first loser. And third? That's nothing." It was the first time Lara realized Rick didn't just doubt her, he wanted her to doubt herself. The next week he brought a brand new skateboard to the lot. "For you," he said, holding it out. It was sleek, light, perfect. But there was a catch. There's always a catch. "I'll help you train," he said, "but you listen to me. Only me. No one else." Lara looked at the board. She'd dreamed of having one like it for years. Her hands almost reached out. But something in her gut told her this wasn't just about skateboarding anymore. Lara didn't know it yet, but accepting that board would mean giving Rick control over her future, and saying no could cost her more than she could afford. The brand new skateboard sat in Rick's hands like a golden ticket. For a split second, Lara imagined what it would feel like to glide down the cracked parking lot on smooth wheels, the board light under her feet, the sound of speed instead of grinding metal. But then she saw his face, the way he tilted his head, the way his smile didn't quite reach his eyes. This wasn't a gift, it was a leash. "I can't," Lara said finally. Rick's smile flattened. "You can't, or you won't." She swallowed. "I won't." For a long moment he didn't move. Then he laughed, not the warm kind, but the sharp kind that cuts. "Suit yourself. Don't say I didn't try." He set the board down on the curb and walked away. Lara stood there, feeling the weight of her decision. She wanted that board more than anything, but she wanted her freedom more. The next week, things changed. Rick stopped showing up. The parking lot felt quieter, emptier. At first, Lara thought maybe she'd gotten lucky. Maybe he'd moved on. But soon, small things started happening. One morning, she arrived to find broken glass scattered across her practice spot. Another day, the old handrail she'd been using was bent so far down it was useless. She didn't have proof, but deep down, she knew. Bishop was small. News traveled fast. Whispers started spreading. Rick says she's got no discipline. Rick says she's wasting her time. Coaches from other towns stopped answering her emails. Her mom noticed. "Maybe you should lay low for a while," she suggested one night over dinner. "Focus on school." But Lara shook her head. "If I stop now, they win." So she kept skating. She found new spots. Behind the high school, near the abandoned train tracks. Even inside the empty lot of a storage facility after dark. Every session was a fight. Sometimes against the terrain, sometimes against her own fear. By the time she turned 13, she'd saved enough from odd jobs and selling old clothes online to enter a bigger competition. This one in Fresno. The entry fee was steep, the travel even steeper. But she scraped the money together, packed her old board, and rode the bus for 6 hours. The event was huge compared to what she was used to. Bright lights, music, skaters from all over the state. She was the only one without a sponsor's logo on her shirt. During warm-ups, a group of older skaters watched her and smirked. One of them, a tall guy with bleached hair, leaned in and said, "That thing even roll, princess," pointing at her board. She ignored him. When it was her turn, she went for the handrail. First try, slam. Second try, slam. The crowd groaned. Her palms burned from catching herself. On her third attempt, she landed it. Clean. The sound of her trucks hitting the rail was sharp, precise. A few people clapped. The judges nodded. She finished her run without another fall. She didn't win. She didn't even place in the top 5. But that night, a small skate blog posted a clip of her handrail trick with the caption, "Who's the girl from Bishop?" Back home, Lara's friends sent her the link. She smiled, but the feeling didn't last. The next day, someone tagged her in a post. It was a blurry photo of her in the parking lot captioned, "Still trying, still failing. Give it up." The account was anonymous, but she didn't need a name. Rick was still there. Maybe not in person, but in shadow. That night, she sat on her bed staring at her skateboard. She thought about the new board he'd offered, the competition she couldn't afford, the feeling of that rail in Fresno under her feet. She could take the easy way, call him, apologize, let him train her. Or she could keep fighting, knowing he'd try to block every step. The decision she made the next morning would set off a chain of events that would push her further than she'd ever gone, and cost her something she could never get back. Lara woke up before the sun, her room still wrapped in the chill of a Bishop morning. She pulled on her hoodie, grabbed her board, and headed out. Her decision from the night before was final. No calls, no apologies, no deals. If Rick wanted to play the long game, so would she. Her chance came faster than she expected. 2 weeks later, she got a DM from Cali Skate Weekly, a mid-tier skate blog. They'd seen her Fresno clip and wanted her in a small invitational in San Diego. No cash prize, but big-name scouts would be there. The entry fee alone was more than she had, not counting the bus ticket and motel. Her mom's paycheck barely covered rent and groceries. Still, Lara didn't hesitate. She doubled her hours at the diner where she bussed tables after school. She sold a pair of sneakers she'd been saving for. She even fixed up old boards from the thrift store and resold them to kids around town. By the time the date rolled around, she had just enough. The bus ride to San Diego felt endless. 12 hours, each stop chipping away at her energy. By the time she checked into the motel, she had exactly $18 left. The venue was nothing like Bishop, a massive skate park surrounded by banners, booming music, and cameras on tripods. She could smell grilled food from food trucks, hear the buzz of the crowd, feel the energy thrumming under her feet. Her heat was scheduled for 2 p.m. She warmed up, keeping her eyes down, her focus on the rails and ledges. Every skater there seemed faster, smoother, wearing crisp gear from sponsors she'd only seen in magazines. When her run started, she exploded off the starting ramp. Kickflip, board slide, clean landing. The announcer's voice rose a notch. She went for the big rail, the one the pros had been eyeing all morning. She hit it with full commitment, landed hard but steady. The crowd reacted, not loud, but enough for her to feel it. She finished strong, no major falls. Back in the holding area, a man in a black cap approached her. He introduced himself as Tony Briggs, a junior scout for one of the smaller skate brands. He handed her a card. "Keep this. You've got style," he said. Her chest felt like it might burst. She didn't even notice Rick until she was halfway to the locker area. He was leaning against a fence, arms crossed, smirking. "Cute run," he said. "Too bad it won't matter. You're not built for this level." She walked past him without a word, gripping Tony's card so tightly it bent. That night in her motel room, she couldn't sleep. She kept replaying her run, Tony's words, and Rick's face. She knew he wouldn't just disappear. He was the kind of person who'd rather burn the bridge than let someone else cross it. The next morning, the event's official Instagram posted highlights. Lara's trick made the cut. 15 seconds of her board slide, clean and sharp. The caption didn't name her, but the comments filled in. "That's the Bishop girl. She's good." 2 hours later, her phone buzzed with a new notification. A private message from an unknown account. "Nice clip. Shame it'll be the last." No name, no profile picture, just the message. She didn't tell her mom. She didn't tell Tony. Instead, she poured everything into the last day of competition, skating the side events, networking with anyone who'd talk to her. When she boarded the bus back to Bishop, she had more than just Tony's card. She had 3 new contacts, a small mention in Cali Skate Weekly, and a quiet, burning certainty. She could break out. She just had to survive the next part. Because Rick wasn't done, not even close. The welcome Lara got when she stepped off that bus wasn't applause, it was a warning. And it came from someone she never expected to turn against her. The bus rolled into Bishop under a pale afternoon sky. The streets looked the same as always, quiet, still, like nothing important had ever happened there. Lara stepped down with her backpack slung over one shoulder, skateboard in her hand, still buzzing from San Diego. But waiting by the curb wasn't her mom. It was Tyler. Tyler Morgan had been her neighbor since they were kids. They'd skated together in the cracked parking lot behind the old supermarket. Back then, he was faster, smoother, and loved reminding her of it. When Lara started pulling ahead, he got quiet. By the time she turned 16, they barely spoke. Now, He was leaning against his beat-up Chevy, arms folded. "Word is you made some noise in San Diego," he said. No smile, no congratulations. Just that slow, measured tone people use before they say something that's going to sting. Lara kept walking. "What do you want, Tyler?" "You should be careful. People here don't like it when someone tries to make Bishop look small." She stopped. "What are you talking about?" He shrugged, eyes never leaving hers. "You'll see." That was the welcome home. When she got to her house, her mom was on the porch, arms crossed, a folded letter in her hand. "This came for you," she said, voice clipped. It was from the diner where Lara worked. Effective immediately, her hours were cut, due to scheduling changes. She knew what that meant. Someone had pushed. Someone wanted her grounded. Her mom didn't ask about San Diego. She didn't even mention the highlight clip. Lara could feel the cold wall between them. Her mom had always been practical to a fault. Dreams didn't pay rent. And Lara's trips out of town, to her, were just distractions from real work. Over the next week, things got worse. A package arrived at the door. Inside was her skateboard, snapped clean in half. No note. She borrowed Tyler's old board once years ago and still remembered how wrong it felt under her feet. Now she had no choice but to fix up an even older deck from the thrift store. Heavy, chipped, the grip tape peeling at the edges. One night, while skating in the lot, she caught movement in her peripheral vision. Someone was filming her from behind a dumpster. When she turned, the camera dropped and the figure disappeared into the dark. The next morning, a new video showed up online. Lara attempting a trick, missing and hitting the ground hard. The caption read, "Bishop's wannabe pro." It was posted from an account she didn't recognize, but the comments were familiar. Laughing emojis, local kids chiming in, a couple of usernames she knew Tyler hung out with. It stung, but it didn't break her. If anything, it made her train harder. Then came the call from Tony Briggs. "I saw the video," he said. "Ignore it. Listen, we've got a spot for a summer demo tour. Nothing big. Just a string of parks across California. You'd be the wild card. Can you make it?" Her chest tightened. This was the kind of opportunity that could change everything. But before she could say yes, Tony added, "We cover lodging, but not travel. You'd have to find your own way to each stop." Lara glanced at the letter from the diner still sitting on her desk, the snapped board now leaning in the corner. She thought about her mom's silence, Tyler's smirk, Rick's messages. "I'll find a way," she said. That night, she mapped out the tour stops and calculated the miles, the gas, the bus tickets. She'd have to sell more than old boards this time. As she sat there, the porch light flicked on outside. A shadow moved past the window, slow and deliberate. When she stepped out, there was no one. Just a folded piece of paper taped to her door. It read, "Stay home, Lara. This isn't your game." The next time she saw that handwriting, it wouldn't be on paper. It would be spray painted across the only place she had left to skate. The next morning, Lara woke up to the sound of her phone buzzing nonstop. Texts, DMs, notifications. It was like the whole town decided to wake her at once. She didn't even have to open them to know it was bad news. By the time she reached the old supermarket parking lot, a small crowd had gathered. Some had their phones out. Others were laughing quietly, nudging each other. Her stomach dropped. The rusty rail, the one she'd learned her first grind on, was gone. Not broken, not stolen. Gone. In its place, the cracked asphalt was painted over with a crude message in thick red spray paint. Fairy tales end. The handwriting was the same as the note taped to her door. She scanned the faces around her but didn't see Tyler. Didn't see Rick either. But she didn't need proof. She knew exactly who was behind it. Someone had taken the last skatable spot in Bishop and turned it into a billboard for her failure. Her fists clenched. "Guess you'll have to find a new hobby," someone in the crowd muttered. She walked away without a word. That afternoon, she sat in her room staring at the wall, her mind running through every possible comeback. She could post a rant online. She could confront them in person. She could quit. But quitting meant they'd won. Her mom came in holding an envelope. "This came for you." Inside was a flyer, California Summer Skate Tour, with the dates and locations highlighted. She didn't need to read it. She knew the stops by heart. "You're not seriously thinking about this," her mom said, crossing her arms. "No car, no money, no equipment, and people out there." She trailed off, shaking her head. "People out there are worse than here. That's why I have to go," Lara said. Her mom stared at her for a long time before leaving the room without another word. That night, Lara took what was left of her savings, bought a roll of grip tape, and spent 3 hours reworking the old thrift store deck. It wasn't perfect, but it rolled. That was enough. Over the next few days, she started selling anything she could: old clothes, skate parts, even her gaming console. She set up a table outside the gas station, offering homemade bracelets for $5 each. People laughed, but some bought out of pity, others out of curiosity. Every sale was a mile closer to the tour. Then one evening, as she was packing up, a voice called out from behind her. "You're really gonna do it, huh?" She turned. Tyler was leaning against his truck again, smirking. "You think anyone out there's gonna care about Bishop's little fairy?" he said. Lara stepped closer, locking eyes with him. "You'll see." He chuckled, but for a split second, his smirk faltered. The next morning, she woke before dawn, strapped her board to her backpack, and started walking to the bus station. She didn't tell her mom goodbye, partly because she didn't want the fight, partly because she wasn't sure she could leave if she looked back. The station was nearly empty. She bought the cheapest ticket she could to the first tour stop, San Jose, and sank into a seat by the window. As the bus rolled out of Bishop, she saw the supermarket parking lot one last time. The red paint on the asphalt caught the early light like a warning sign. She smiled to herself. They'd taken the rail, the spot, the comfort of home. But they hadn't taken her, or so she thought. Halfway to San Jose, she opened her backpack to grab her headphones. Inside, she found another note, same handwriting as before. "This tour will break you." What she didn't know was that the person behind the notes wasn't done yet, and their next move wouldn't just target her, it would target the one thing the skate community loved most about her. San Jose smelled like asphalt and food trucks. The air was thick with the sound of wheels rolling over fresh concrete. For Lara, it was like stepping into another planet. The skate park hosting the first stop of the California Summer Skate Tour was massive. Smooth ramps, pristine rails, perfect transitions. Kids zipped around in expensive boards with graphics that still shined. She ran her fingers along the grip tape of her own battered deck. It looked like it had survived a war. A few skaters glanced at her board, then at her. One of them snorted, "Yo, check out the antique." Lara ignored them. She had one goal: make it through the qualifiers. When her name was called, she took a deep breath, pushed off, and let muscle memory take over. The crowd's chatter faded. It was just her in the park. Every grind, every flip, every landing, she hit them clean. The final trick, a backside board slide down the biggest rail, earned a loud cheer from a group near the bleachers. She exhaled, smiling. She wasn't invisible here, but that feeling lasted less than an hour. While she was cooling down near the water station, her phone buzzed. Dozens of new notifications. Her stomach twisted as she opened one. It was a video. Her falling. Again and again. Every awkward bail, every slam, spliced together with mocking captions. "Fairy fails. Skateboarding isn't for everyone." The worst part? The account posting it had over 200,000 followers, and the clip was already going viral. Her hands shook as she scrolled. Comments poured in. "Why is she even here? Cute outfit, wrong sport. Stick to TikTok, Fairy." She turned off her phone and shoved it into her bag. "Yo, you okay?" asked a tall skater in a black hoodie. His name tag read, Jason Cruz. He was a local favorite and, from the looks of the crowd, practically a celebrity here. "Yeah, Lara said quickly, forcing a smile. Jason looked at her bored. Old school. You've got guts. Before she could answer, an announcer's voice boomed over the speakers calling the next heat. Jason gave her a nod. Shake it off, happens to everyone. Just don't read the comments. But Lara knew this wasn't just random hate. The timing was too perfect. The video had been uploaded less than an hour after her run. Someone was feeding her clips to this account. That night she stayed in the cheapest motel she could find, lying on a creaky bed, staring at the ceiling. She opened the video again, not to torture herself but to study it. The angles were too close. The camera followed her too precisely. Whoever filmed it wasn't just in the crowd. They were watching her the entire time. Her mind kept circling back to Bishop, to Tyler, to the notes. But she had no proof, and even if she did, calling him out would make her look desperate. The next morning, she returned to the park early for the second round. She expected whispers, stares, maybe even someone filming her with a smirk. Instead, she got silence. Not the respectful kind, the kind that means people are already making up their minds about you. The judges barely looked up as she rolled into her first trick. The crowd clapped politely, but the energy was gone. Every move felt heavier, slower, like her board had doubled in weight. She didn't fall, but she didn't shine either. After her run, she sat on the curb outside the park, fighting the urge to throw her board into the street. Her phone buzzed again. Another notification from the same account. This time, the caption read, "Round 2, still not impressed." The video showed her run from that morning cut to look stiff and awkward. Her chest burned. If this kept up, no sponsor would touch her. No brand wanted a meme skater. Then a new message appeared in her DMs, from an account with no profile picture. Told you this tour would break you. Quit now before it gets worse. Lara stared at the screen, her hands trembling, not from fear but from something sharper. Because if they wanted her gone, they clearly didn't know what she was willing to do to stay. Lara didn't sleep that night. The motel walls felt like they were closing in, the air thick and stale. She kept replaying the DM in her head. Quit now before it gets worse. She'd been underestimated before. She'd been laughed at, ignored, shoved aside. But this was different. This wasn't just doubt. This was a threat. By sunrise, she'd made a decision. She wasn't going to run from it. She was going to find out who was behind it. The next stop on the tour was Los Angeles, 3 hours away. It was the biggest stage yet, with scouts from major brands in the stands. If she could crush it there, the viral videos would stop being an embarrassment and start looking like a setup. But to do that, she needed to control the narrative. She opened her cracked phone and started scrolling through the Fairy Fails account. Whoever ran it was smart. They never posted their own voice, never showed their face. But in one clip, she noticed something, a reflection in a metal rail, a blurry outline but familiar. Her gut told her she'd seen that stance before. She messaged Jason Cruz, the skater who'd spoken to her in San Jose. "Need a favor. Can you help me film my next run?" He replied in under a minute. "Yeah, you planning something? Let's just say I'm done letting them tell my story." Los Angeles was nothing like Bishop. The skate park was a monster. Smooth marble ledges, massive vert walls, rails that gleamed in the California sun. Crowds swarmed the fences, phones out, ready to catch every trick and every fall. As Lara warmed up, Jason appeared with a camera rig strapped to his chest. "Front row angles," he said with a grin. "Let's make this one count." When her name was called, she rolled into the park like she owned it. Every push was deliberate, every trick precise. She wasn't just skating for points, she was skating to make a point. The crowd started noticing. Murmurs turned to cheers when she landed a clean kickflip to fakie, then locked into a 50-50 grind across the longest ledge in the park. She could feel the eyes on her. Not the mocking ones, but the kind that were waiting to be impressed. Halfway through her run, she spotted him, leaning against the far fence, phone in hand, smirking. Tyler. Her chest tightened, but she didn't falter. She finished her line with a perfect nollie heel flip down the big stair set. The crowd erupted. Jason gave her a nod as she rolled to the edge of the park. Got him, he said quietly, tapping the camera. An hour later, while the judges deliberated, Lara sat with Jason in a shaded corner, reviewing the footage. In the background of her run, just behind the fence, was Tyler, filming her, then immediately looking down at his phone as if uploading something. And in one frame, the camera caught his screen, just enough to see the Fairy Fails profile page open. It wasn't airtight proof, but it was enough for her. Jason leaned back. "What are you gonna do?" Lara's eyes narrowed. Turn his own game against him. Before the finals, she approached one of the event photographers, a woman named Elena who ran a popular skate blog. Lara showed her the clip. Elena's eyebrows shot up. "You want me to post this?" "Not yet," Lara said. "First, I want him to know I know." When the finals began, Lara skated like she had nothing to lose. She threw tricks she'd been holding back all tour, switch 360 flips, feeble grinds, a front-side big spin that had the announcers shouting her name. And the whole time she could feel Tyler's eyes on her. As she rolled away from her last trick, she stopped by the fence where he stood. Without a word, she pulled her phone from her pocket, opened the video of him filming her, and held it up so he could see. His smirk vanished. She didn't say anything, just smiled, turned, and rode away to the roar of the crowd. That night, the Fairy Fails account went silent. But Lara knew this wasn't over. People like Tyler didn't disappear. They just waited for another angle. Still, for the first time in weeks, she felt in control. What she didn't know was that her next challenge wouldn't come from an enemy in the shadows, but from someone offering her the very thing she thought she wanted most. The morning after Los Angeles felt unreal. Lara woke up sore but buzzing, her phone exploding with notifications. Clips from her run were everywhere. Skate blogs, Instagram reels, even a short segment on a local sports channel. For once, the comments weren't tearing her apart. "Who's this girl? The fairy's for real. This is the run of the year." She sat on the motel bed scrolling, half smiling, half waiting for the other shoe to drop. Because in her world, the high never lasted long. The knock came just after 9 a.m. When she opened the door, a man in a tailored black jacket stood there holding a slim leather briefcase. He wasn't from around here. You could smell corporate on him from the parking lot. "Lara Leal?" he asked. She nodded. "My name's Ryan Pierce. I'm with Driftline." She knew the name. Everyone in skateboarding did. Driftline wasn't just a brand, it was the brand. They sponsored world champions, owned prime skate parks, and had contracts worth more than Lara's entire town's annual budget. "I watched your run yesterday," Ryan said, smiling in a way that didn't quite reach his eyes. "And I think you have what we're looking for." They sat in the small motel cafe. Ryan slid a folder across the table. Inside, a glossy packet with Driftline's logo, photos of their top riders, and a contract. The number at the bottom made Lara's chest tighten. She'd never seen that many zeros next to her name. "All expenses covered," Ryan said smoothly. "Travel, gear, training. You'd never have to worry about another motel breakfast again." It sounded like a dream, but Lara had learned enough to know dreams often came with fine print. "What's the catch?" she asked. Ryan's smile widened. "Nothing unusual. We just need you to fit the Driftline image. That means the look we choose, the events we pick, and the content we approve. And," he tapped the contract, "you'll avoid unnecessary controversies. No public call-outs, no online drama. We want you focused on winning." It didn't take a genius to know what unnecessary controversies meant. They wanted her quiet about Tyler, quiet about anyone who tried to humiliate her, quiet about the truth. Lara leaned back, staring at the untouched coffee in front of her. "So if someone tries to trash me online again, I just let it slide?" Ryan's tone didn't change. "We'll handle it internally." She could almost hear her younger self screaming in her head. "Take it, sign, get out of Bishop forever." But another voice pushed back, one she'd been growing since she first stepped onto that cracked parking lot. the voice that had kept her rolling through every insult, every bruise. "What if I don't want to fit someone else's image?" she asked. Ryan's smile thinned. "Then you stay where you are. Motel rooms, selling merch out of your backpack, hoping the next competition covers your gas money." That night, Lara walked the streets near the beach, contract folded in her pocket. She thought of her mom, still working double shifts back in Bishop. She thought of the kids who messaged her saying she gave them hope. She thought of Tyler, who would love nothing more than to see her kept on a leash. Money meant security. It meant she could focus on skating without wondering how she'd eat the next week. But it also meant silence. And silence had never been her style. The next morning, she showed up at the final tour stop in San Diego, not wearing any driftline gear, not accompanied by any agent. Ryan was there, watching from the VIP section. He didn't wave. Before her run, she posted a clip on her socials. The full video of Tyler filming her in Los Angeles, along with the caption, "You can't control what you can't scare." Within an hour, it was everywhere. Skate pages, news feeds, even mainstream sports sites picked it up. The comments weren't just about her tricks anymore, they were about her refusal to stay quiet. Ryan didn't approach her again. Lara didn't know if she'd just thrown away her one big shot at security. But as she stood at the top of the course, board in hand, hearing the crowd chant her name, she knew one thing. She wasn't here to be someone's brand puppet. She was here to win, on her own terms. What Lara couldn't have predicted was that her defiance would attract the attention of someone far bigger than Driftline. And they weren't coming to offer her a contract. They were coming to change her life. The San Diego sun was sinking low, painting the skate park in gold and shadows. Lara had just finished her last run of the season. Her legs were burning, her palms still raw from a hard slam on the second heat. But the energy in the crowd felt different. People weren't just cheering her tricks, they were cheering her. The girl from Bishop with the beat-up board who refused to sell her voice. She was walking back to the locker area when her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, until instinct told her to answer. "Lara Leal?" "Yes, who's this?" "My name's Olivia Carter. I manage partnerships for Redline Sports Media. We've been following your season." Lara froze. Redline wasn't just another brand. They were the network that broadcast every major skate event in the world. They didn't sponsor skaters, unless they had a bigger plan. "We saw what you did yesterday," Olivia continued. "It's rare to see an athlete protect their identity over a paycheck. We think that's the kind of story people want to hear. Not just in skateboarding. Everywhere." Lara leaned against the wall, trying to process. "What exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying," Olivia replied, "we'd like to build a documentary around you. Your story, your journey, everything. We'll cover production, travel, expenses. You'll have full creative control. And when it airs, you'll be the face of our Champions Without Chains campaign. Big brands are already interested in backing it." Lara's heart pounded. This wasn't just sponsorship. It was exposure on a level she couldn't have imagined. Not just skating in competitions, but telling her story in front of millions. That night, she called her mom. "Mind, they want to make a film about me." Her mother's voice cracked. "Then the world will finally see what I've always seen." She thought about all those mornings selling snacks on the street, counting coins to make bus fare to competitions. About skating in parking lots with broken pavement because no one would build a park in Bishop. About hearing "give it up" more times than she could count. And now, cameras, interviews, travel, a stage bigger than any podium. The filming began 2 weeks later. Redline's crew followed her to Bishop, capturing shots of her skating the same cracked lot where it all began. They spoke to her old classmates, her first coach, Mrs. Daniels, the school counselor who once pulled her aside and told her she had something special. But the crew also documented the ugly side. The online hate, the footage of Tyler mocking her, the rejection letters from brands that didn't think she fit their image. Lara didn't flinch. If she was going to tell her story, it had to be all of it. When the documentary premiered 6 months later, it didn't just air on sports channels. It hit streaming platforms, YouTube, even late-night talk shows. Clips of Lara skating in her fairy costume at age 7 went viral again, this time alongside footage of her medaling against world champions. Tyler's name started trending for the wrong reasons. He vanished from competitions for a while. Driftline quietly announced a shift in brand direction, but more importantly, offers started flooding in. From shoe companies, athletic wear brands, energy drink sponsors, all on Lara's terms. No image control clauses, no silencing her voice. Her bank account changed overnight. So did her schedule. She was traveling to competitions worldwide, but also visiting schools, skate parks, and community centers, speaking to kids who'd been told they weren't good enough. One afternoon, while signing boards at a youth event in Chicago, a shy girl about 9 years old stepped up. Her skateboard was scratched and missing grip tape. "They said I can't skate because I'm a girl," the kid whispered. Lara crouched down, smiling. "Good. That means you're already making them nervous." The girl's smile lit up the whole room. Lara never forgot Bishop. She funded the town's first proper skate park, built on the very lot where she learned to grind. The opening day drew hundreds, not just from Bishop, but from nearby towns. For the first time, that small, quiet place was buzzing with something new. As the ribbon was cut, her mom leaned over and said, "You didn't just get out, Lara. You brought something back." That night, lying in her hotel room after the event, Lara scrolled through old photos. Her fairy costume at 7, the motel breakfasts, the broken wheels. She thought about how close she'd been to trading her voice for security, how easy it would have been to sign that Driftline contract and live safely in their shadow. But she hadn't, and because of that, she didn't just win medals. She changed the game. Today, when she's introduced at competitions, the announcer doesn't just say world champion. They say, the girl who rewrote the rules. And somewhere out there, in another cracked parking lot, another kid with no money and a borrowed board is hearing her name and realizing they can rewrite theirs too. Lara didn't just make it from one old skateboard to world records. She turned her story into a weapon and showed the world that the biggest wins aren't always measured in points, but in the lives you touch along the way. If Lara's journey lit a fire in you, don't let it fade here. Click subscribe to never miss another story like this, like if you believe in fighting for your dream. And share this video with someone who needs to hear it today. And before you go, check out the pinned comment below. I left something there that could be the spark for your next big step. It will change the way you see your own journey. Until the next video.